So I've always been into JDM cars, always enjoyed the Z cars. Came across the 300ZX and just fell in love. Someone asked, how can you justify the time, effort and money you put into the car? If you look at how it's changed my life and the friendships I've made, it's worth every cent. One cool thing about these cars not many people know about is the Bonneville land speed record for 6-cylinder forced induction street cars was set in 1991 by a car built by Jun Auto from Japan in a 300ZX. They did 420 kilometers an hour, a car that made about 1,000 horsepower, still street legal. And that record's never been broken. Exactly 30 years later, 300ZX still holds the land speed record for 6-cylinder forced induction street vehicle. So yeah, these cars have huge tuning capabilities. So these cars are roughly 30 years old now, and being a high performance car, they've had a hard life. Big thing is obviously mechanical condition. There's a bunch of different things you need to check for, but basically the health of the motor is a big one. Most of them will need an engine rebuild if they've had a hard life. A bit of tidying up. If the car's been at the coast, they do rust by this age. They can have rust issues. But if it's been a dry climate car, usually the bodywork's pretty good. Transmissions are tough as nails, so you'll have no problems there. Basically, electrical systems and engine is stuff you want to go through and check that it's aged well and been looked after. So one thing on these cars is heat can be an issue. They heat soak. The cars were pretty detuned in their factory form at 300 horsepower, but as soon as you want to get more horsepower out of them, you're making more heat. So we manage that with heat shields, porting out water channels, much bigger intercoolers, bigger radiator, much bigger oil coolers, a whole bunch of things just to keep the heat in check. So yeah, the car had virtually stock bodywork when I got it. I'd always thought the front bumper could do with a bit more of an aggressive style. So I was cruising in this one day and a guy in a Subaru pulled up next to me and he kept trying to wave me down. So I rolled my window down. He's like, "Oh, dude, I had one of these as well a few years ago." Eventually we pulled over and started chatting. He says, "I still got a bunch of parts for the car even though I sold it. Why don't you come have a look?" And there was this Abflug front bumper, which is super rare Japanese front bumper that he'd got on his car, I think, when he imported it. And it was really in rough shape. It took me a couple of months of fiberglass work to get it looking decent again, but that's how I got a super rare front bumper. And then trying to find a set of side skirts that kind of matched the shape. Couldn't find some anywhere. Eventually on eBay, there was a guy in Russia stripping a crash car, and it had the side skirts that looked right. So I messaged him. The one was snapped completely in half, the car had been T-boned. So I said to me, send them anyway. So I bought them in from Russia off a scrap car there, fiberglassed them back together again, and that's what you see. The nose panel with the vent there, I made myself out of the stock flat panel that was just cutting and fiberglassing and filling. The boot spoiler and roof spoiler came in from the States, so parts from all over the world to make this car look the way it does. Stock motor, 300 horsepower. This one now about 600 horsepower, so double the output just with bigger turbos and breather mods. So there are some restrictions of getting air in and air out on these motors in the factory setup. So by changing exhaust manifolds and intake pipes and things like that, you open up the motor so much it can breathe a lot better, make a lot more horsepower. So about double the boost from stock and double the horsepower. So the power delivery is one of the things that I wanted to get right. I didn't want to just chuck big turbos on it and have it make lots of power on a dyno but be very laggy on the road. So Small turbo housings, and it's actually really responsive. The delivery is pretty good, quite linear. It'll start boosting under 3,000 RPM, be it full boost at like 3.2, 3.3. Yeah, maximum power obviously comes in at like 4 to 7. It pulls quite nicely then. Actually got the car with these brakes on, luckily. So it's 350Z calipers and 370Z discs, so it's all OEM Nissan stuff, just later model cars. Nice balance, really great stopping power. So interior, these cars have quite a cool interior. Got that kind of fighter jet style look, the way everything's just oriented to the driver. Wanted to upgrade it, make it a little more modern, a little more classy. Center console I modified myself to hold some gauges and a few other things. Then just modernized a little bit with some little details and accents and bits and pieces. Quite an experience, a car that I've been through so much with. Yeah, car was stolen from me, and when I got it back, blown motor, that's why I rebuilt it. Bodywork was trashed, interior was torn out. So from that lowest point you can get to as a car enthusiast, having someone else do that to your car, to rebuilding it over years to something where it's turned out like this, it's so rewarding. You know, it just feels good that I've done it myself. I built the motor myself, I painted the car myself, and this car it's turned into a rolling billboard. It's what actually allowed me to start the business I do, rebuilding JDM cars, and particularly 300ZXs, because everyone asked me, where'd you get the car done? I said I did it myself. Oh, can you do mine as well? So that's why there's 3 more here being rebuilt. So yeah, little did I know at the time this would like take my life in a slightly different angle and allow me to start my own business. So yeah, the cornering on these cars is actually pretty good. They're not the ZX cars from the 280, the Z31 and the Z32 ZXs. The purists kind of didn't like them because Nissan went with more of a GT car, or GT approach. So they are a little heavier because they have more creature comforts. They were a little softer, but they still handle spectacularly well. All they need is a little bit of refinement. So this car goes around bends incredibly well, and so easily keeps up with any modern sports car. But it has the comforts of a Grand Tourer car. Pretty much every time I take this car for a drive, I'll get someone who'll pull up next to me, give me a thumbs up, hoots. They'll be smiling, they love the car. It's someone random, but they're showing appreciation for what I've done. It's just nice to see that other people have the same passion and that they appreciate it. And yeah, every time I take it out, it'll put a smile on someone's face and they'll show that they enjoy it.
Cars.co.za is so much more than just a YouTube channel. You've got to check out our app. It's been downloaded over 1 million times in the South African Android store alone. The links are in the description below, and I promise you it is the easiest way to find your next car.